My name is Alicia Woods, and I am the founder and creator of Covergalls. Being born and raised in Sudbury, mining was all around me. I often say I felt like I grew up mining. My father, my grandfather, my uncles were all involved in the mining industry, and for me, I spent a lot of my weekends as a child in the shop where my grandfather, my father, and my uncles would repair and rebuild underground mining equipment. So, as a child, because of the time I spent there, I envisioned myself one day being in the mining industry. I actually had wanted to fill my father's boots. I enjoyed the time that I was there. Reflecting back, I never felt that it was a place that I didn't belong because I was female. And so that really inspired me to one day envision myself there. Unfortunately, when I was in grade 8, my father passed away unexpectedly. And immediately, those dreams of one day being like him went away. As I moved through my high school years, I really struggled with, what was I going to be when I grew up? And, bounced back and forth between business, being a teacher. And during that time, my aunt had actually approached me and said, we have an opportunity for you to come back into the shop part-time. I understand you're going through school, but we could use some help. So I went back to Marcotte Mining, which was the company that my family had founded, and found myself doing a number of roles. And instantly, I felt like I was back at home. I was back where I belonged in the mining industry. After doing a number of the roles at Marcotte Mining part-time, I was quickly offered a full-time position, and that took me upstairs to the world of underground mobile equipment sales. And this meant that I had to go underground. I remember getting to that local safety supply store to get all geared up, and to my surprise, there was absolutely nothing for women. I remember buying the smallest that I could find, having to, roll things in, tuck things in, fold things, but it wasn't until I got underground that day, and I remember stepping off of the cage and asked, one of the guys with me, if I have to use the washroom today, where do I go? And of course, they all chuckled and laughed, and they pointed to the end of a very dark drift, and I immediately kind of looked down and thought, this is not happening today. I can't take off all of my gear just to use the washroom. So I avoided it, got back to surface, did a quick Google search, and all I could find were women's gardening coveralls, which, certainly weren't going to meet my needs in an industrial setting. So believe it or not, for the next 10 years, I didn't drink anything before heading underground. I just simply refused to have to take off all my gear to use the washroom facilities. That was until the summer of 2011. Found myself out in Saskatchewan at a potash mine, and I remember being underground. It was really dry and dusty. My colleague had actually failed to tell me we were going to be running under the conveyor belt that day. And as I mentioned, I never drank anything, and without realizing it, had actually consumed 3 bottles of water. Got to the station, was excited to get to surface because obviously I need to use the washroom now. And the cage tender said, sorry, we're down for maintenance. It's going to be a few more hours. And I remember just kind of like looking around going, this can't happen. For a decade, I have avoided this. And now I'm going to have to face something that I haven't done in a long time. And I remember asking, one of the guys that had taken us on the tour to say anyway, there's, porta potty or somewhere underground. And we managed to find a porta potty. Unfortunately, had no door. So, he stepped away, and I remember stepping inside, turning off my cap lamp because I didn't want anybody who was walking by to see me, and, starting to take off my gear, and I can hear things falling on the ground. I'm trying not to let things touch. And I feel like everybody listening right now has probably found themselves in that similar situation. And, after that, just kind of zipped back up, went back to the station and sat on the bench and just said, I will never wear your coverall again. And that's how the Covergall was born. The Covergall was really born out of my own frustration in wearing men's workwear. Not only was it a challenge to use the washroom by having to take everything off, but it didn't fit me properly. So what the Covergall offers is something unique, something different, functionality. So it fits me properly. It's made for a female body, so it's not big and baggy. It's, if you think about PPE, it's meant to protect you, safety being number one. You don't want something that's baggy. But also for bathroom breaks. So we incorporated a two-way zipper in the front, so you never have to, take things down. You can just zip up, and incorporated a old school long john, rear trap door in the back of the garments for easy bathroom breaks. And again, really trying to hide the features so that when, a female is standing beside her male counterpart, it doesn't look like her garment is different than what he's wearing. When I got back to Sudbury, I remember taking my garment to a local seamstress, and we made the modifications to make that garment, fit me better and function. And so I started wearing it in the field. And as I wore it, women would stop me to say, like, where did you get that coverall? It looks like it fits you properly. And how are you drinking underground? And so the interest really started to grow. And that word actually got back to Valet as an organization. And Valet reached out to me and said, we love what you're doing with your coverall. As a company, safety is number one. And also, we want to attract and retain a female workforce, and we feel that this garment can help us in that. So Valet gave us a small group of women for us to trial this, female version of the coverall. We gathered feedback and input and made modifications. Also teamed up with 3M at that time, a strong partner of ours, to really work on understanding the standards around high visibility and workwear. And after a period of time, Valet's Health and Safety Committee, sat around a table, reviewed the feedback, and decided that they would give our garment the green light. And that was for us, really the tipping point. Now we had a garment that I knew worked for me, worked for other women, but now we've got the backing of a global mining company, and they are saying that, this is approved. But what do you do with this? And, at that time, I remember watching TV with my family, and a commercial came on for Dragon's Den. They're actually coming to Sudbury to do auditions. And, as a family, we loved watching that show. It was a bit of a game where we would decide whether we were going to invest or not. And when we saw that auditions were coming, I remember just kind of looking at my husband and my son and daughter thinking, maybe this is the way that we're going to launch this product. Maybe this is our opportunity. And so we went to the audition. 2 weeks later, got the call from CBC that we had been, they were asking us to come to Toronto to pitch the Dragons, which is almost a surreal moment. I thought, oh no, what did I sign myself up for? So we did get the opportunity to pitch the Dragons. It was important for us to, kind of showcase this product, and also at the time ask for capital. We did go on the episode looking for an investment of $75,000 for 20%. To my surprise, on the show, we got, multiple offers, and so did have to give away a little bit more. But after the show aired, the feedback was more than we could have ever imagined. And for us, we had went there really focused on the capital, not realizing all the other benefits that would have came out from, being featured on that show, and really kind of hearing from all these women who felt like they were on islands of their own, just kind of coming together. And so after a while, through due diligence, we decided to actually retain 100% of the company. That way it would allow us, full control to make those decisions. And a little bit tough, definitely have to bootstrap along the way if it's, if it's something that you're doing on your own, but it's definitely been, worth the journey and worth the ride. At the time I launched Covergalls, I was working full-time in the mining industry, had a very promising career, tons of opportunity. So it was really hard to try and balance everything. I had Covergalls, which is something that I truly believed in. I thought it was something that could have positive change and have a real impact. But then on the flip side, my career, tons of opportunity. It was safe, it was secure, it paid well. And so really kind of struggled of, how I was going to, manage this. And, finally in the fall of 2019, I decided to leave my full-time career and take Covergalls on full-time. And I quickly realized that, you'll never see the true potential out of anything if you don't give it 110%. And, even though I was able to try to balance things in the past, it really got to a point where it was not sustainable to me personally, not sustainable to my family, or to my friends or my colleagues. So, making that decision was definitely the right one. I have never regretted it, and, super excited about what we're doing here at Covergalls now. We're having some of our partners come to us to try and tackle these challenges that they have, or maybe, work together on ideas. And one of the recent ones was actually Science North, and it really actually helped to inspire this, recycled high-vis shirt. Science North came to us and said, we've got this blue coat, but like your coverall, if you think about the coverall, it had always remained the same, and same with the blue coat. And Science North is known for their blue coats. And so they wanted to, make some updates and some improvements. But at the same time, Science North is very committed to their sustainability, and, they just put together an environmental report and some of the actions that they're going to be taking to, address some of these challenges. And one of them was actually around the temperature of their building. They weren't going to be cooling it as much as they had in the past, and that was a commitment to their climate and environmental action plan. And so thinking about, now it's going to be warmer for their blue coats to work in. They wanted to improve the fit and design. Immediately we thought, okay, let's remove gender names. Let's think about inclusive workwear. Why do we need to have a female and a male cut of the blue coat? Let's just create a tailored fit and a relaxed fit. So that was kind of the first idea that we had, wanted to pitch to Science North, that we had come up with as a team on the Covergalls side. And then the second one was, okay, you want all of these great properties like, moisture wicking and antibacterial, but thinking about sustainability and the impact that clothing actually has on the environment, what could we do from that perspective? And, again, kind of at that same time, having conversations with somebody who had thought I should meet this other person, and turned out to be, connected to Waste Aware, a company making, yarns and materials out of recycled items. And so it just kind of all came together, almost like a collision. And I thought, wow, this is perfect. This Waste Aware partnership, Science North and Covergalls, what can we do that's disruptive? And so, it was really Science North that kind of inspired and sparked all of that. And, we started to work on their blue coat using materials made out of recycled plastic water bottles. And then it transitioned very quickly over to our product line. And now we're in the process of, launching this high-vis sustainable collection, and not just offering it for females, but really going to transition and provide inclusive workwear to all genders. At the end of the day, everybody wants to feel like they are part of their organization, that they belong in the, industry that they're working on, are working in. And so that's what we're hoping to achieve now, is really just disrupt everything and just provide inclusive workwear to all. Now, don't get me wrong. This has not been perfect, this complete journey. It has certainly been filled with ups and downs, and times where, I thought, where is the white flag? I give up because it's just been so difficult, lots of sleepless nights. But I can tell you that, that those times when, your team reaches out to you, or, clients or some of your partners, and they kind of give you, pat on the back, or they share with you like the impact that you're having and the positive change. Those are the things that keep you going. Those are the things that, keep that, fire lit underneath you, so that you can keep progressing forward. And, I think about my gut. I, trust my gut. In the beginning, I remember something had come in front of me, and I chose not to trust my gut. I actually chose to listen to others who told me to go down one path, and it was the wrong path to go. Luckily, it was something small, but I quickly, realized that I need to trust myself. I think also, not using fear of failure as a reason not to do something. It's very easy to sit back and, think of all the reasons why not to. But, again, if it's something that you want to explore, go for it. At the end of the day, it's going to be a learning if it doesn't work out. But at least then you don't go to bed thinking, I should have, I could have, I would have. At least you can say, hey, I tried, it didn't work out, and now I'm going to move on to something else. And, a few other, I'm just immediately transitions over to like advice that I would give to entrepreneurs, and for me, I think it's about, learn to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. Through that journey, there's going to be a lot of times where you're uncomfortable, but you know what, just hit it on the head and move forward. And I think the biggest thing for me is, at the end of the day, you have two choices. You have the choice to build someone else's dream, or you have the choice to build your own. And I've just decided I'm going to build my own dream. As an entrepreneur, it's tough, right? You've got an idea for either product or service, but like, what do you do with it, right? And it's hard trying to find that balance, because, you don't want to share everything with everybody. You still want to protect, your idea. But on the flip side, it's like, how do you progress that idea? Where do you go? And I think, for me, just having almost like kind of a network around you, a support system that you can go to. You know, don't be afraid to ask or reach out. If you think about it, like I remember an article being published in the CIM. And at that time, the article was, an interview with Ian Pierce, who was the ex-CEO of Extracted Nickel. And I immediately thought, wow, this is the CEO of this major mining company. But he had wrote about how he was still surprised to this day that proper bathroom facilities and coveralls for women didn't exist. And I remember this is when I was first starting. So it was like the balance of like, do I share this idea and risk someone else taking it? Or do I reach out? And I remember actually reaching out, and within 12 hours, he got back to me. And what that showed me was, most people want to help and support, right? And at the end of the day, you don't know unless you ask. So, never be afraid to reach out and ask. And I often get, emails, whether it's, emails or messages through social media saying, I have this idea, but I don't know what to do with it. And, people want to, help guide and support. And for those now, there are a ton of resources out there. Thinking back 10 years ago, there wasn't very many, but I certainly had a really strong support system. And I think that was key. And the reality is Covergalls would never be where it is today if it wasn't for that support system. I think about my team, I think about my family, my friends, industry, colleagues, partners. I mean, Covergalls is a result of our collective efforts. It's not just one person. When you think of being an entrepreneur in Northern Ontario, I don't know if there's a sense of like maybe there's a box or boundaries, but the reality is no matter your geographical location, you can really be a global entrepreneur. Think about it. I think COVID has taught us that, we can connect with anybody from anywhere. And so, just keeping, in the back of your mind that you're not just stuck to a geographical location or in these boundaries. You really can go anywhere. Like really the world is your oyster. And I think, we probably have a unique advantage in Northern Ontario. I think just being able to collaborate and network with other people, I think people are wanting to help each other. There is a ton of innovation that happens in this region and a ton of resources and organizations that are here to support. And again, if you're not sure, just ask, reach out, just start with that one person. I think about, Claude Rivet at the NOHFC, and I remember going to him and instantly he connected me with like 4 to 6 other resources. And again, had I, been afraid to ask, I would have never been able to access those resources. But, please don't be afraid to reach out and ask. I feel like an entrepreneur is probably a jack of all trades, right? In the beginning, when you've got this idea, this product or service, you're really wearing all of the hats, right? You're doing everything from like trying to develop the branding or the marketing, you're trying to work on the sales pitch, whether it involves manufacturing or production, you're trying to manage that as well. And then you've got the financial aspect of it. So you're really kind of wearing everything. And, as you grow, please never be afraid to bring on people who are stronger than you in those respective areas. You will never become an expert in all of those fields. You need to, of course, know them, but being an entrepreneur, you'll have already kind of, done a lot of the work and a lot of the groundwork. But, as you continue to grow and go down that path, please, bring on board those who are strong in those respective areas, because collectively, that's how you will succeed. I think one of the hardest lessons that I learned was, thinking that other people had my best interest in mind. And what I mean by that is, I remember we were struggling to find a manufacturer here in Canada. You would think that it would be easy, but as soon as we said it was female workwear, they would stop answering our emails, they would stop answering our calls. And I remember finding this one manufacturer and, they were producing our garments. They were excellent to work with, great quality garments, but then they got busy with their own product lines and they subcontracted us off to another manufacturer here in Canada. And I had just assumed that manufacturer would have my best interest in mind and that he had a relationship with that other partner and that we were in good hands. Yeah, big mistake. I should have done my due diligence. I should have made sure that organization was being honest, that contracts were put in place and that they were being held accountable to what they had committed. And, with that particular situation, at the end of the day, we had given them deposits. We had paid them in advance for product because they had promised to give us, a discount. And at that time, cash flow was great. So they'd also committed to delivering products. And quickly realized that they did none of it. So had our money, no products, very upset customers, and I can tell you a lot of sleepless nights. So, now I make sure that we do our due diligence because nobody else is going to act on your best interest. They're focused on themselves. So that was probably one of the hardest lessons. And not only did it put a strain on us financially, but it really jeopardized a number of relationships that we had with clients. And, some of those relationships took years to rebuild. If I was sitting in the audience right now and I was a young entrepreneur with, this great idea that I felt, had potential, I would take that leap. I think, when you're young, you're less risk adverse, you'll take chances, and why not see where it can go, But I think as you get older and, if you find yourself in a comfortable career, it's then harder to take that chance. It's harder to kind of, jump off that platform. And I just think, why not, give it a try. And, even as you continue to, to grow in age, if you have a great idea, just test it out, try it. You don't have to, fully leap into it. You can start to do the test, see how the market reacts, build the interest, and then make a decision, based on your own comfort level, if it's time to take that leap. What I've come to realize in this journey of entrepreneurship, starting a company, having a full-time career, is you need balance. Yeah, you can work harder and longer, but you still need to have balance in your life. And just thinking about that immediately brings me back to this book called Pick 3. It's written by Randy Zuckerberg. And I remember at the time when I discovered this book, I was really struggling. From the outside, I looked collected. I looked like I had everything together. I was managing Covergalls, I had a full-time career, a mother and a wife, and I had friends, but I was actually a mess inside. There was absolutely no balance, which is not sustainable. And so very happy that I had met Randy Zuckerberg. We actually were giving a talk together at a conference in Texas, and she gave me her book. And I remember getting on the airplane and I read it from one end to the other. And, what that book really, was around was about balance. Pick 3. If you think about it, you've got all these things to focus on. You have family, you have friends, you have health, you have work, you have sleep. Well, you'll never be great at all of those things every day. It's not sustainable. So wake up in the morning and pick 3. Are you going to focus on your family, your friends, and your work today? Or, are you going to make sure that you get a good night's rest? Because we all know sleep is important. You're going to focus on your health and then maybe squeeze in a little bit of work. And then wake up the next morning and pick another 3. So if I can suggest any books for those that are just, not finding that balance, who are struggling, please read that book. And let me know what you think.